We want a visual recording of that interaction between the officer and an individual.
If there was issues with the use of force, I would be the first one to hold my people accountable, and I have. Not everybody is privy to those investigations.
That camera contention continues.
Last night, county commissioners unanimously voted to put money aside for Bernalillo County deputies to get body cams.
But the sheriff is still refusing to budge because he says cameras don't make our community safer. This morning, he offered a different solution.
He says someone else should be wearing those cameras. Our Ryan Laughlin has who the sheriff suggested. Ryan.
Yeah, Steve and Ted, so we're outside the sheriff's department right now, and the sheriff's message has remained largely the same. He says he's focused on fighting crime, and cameras on his deputies won't help. But today he said cameras on criminals could. Today, Sheriff Gonzalez offered an idea for a different type of transparency with Bob Clark on News Radio KKOB.
Why don't we hold the criminals accountable? Think about putting body-worn cameras on them in terms of releasing them back into the community and some of the conditions. Let's refocus on maybe what that tool should be used for.
Could cameras really be used on criminals?
You know, there's so many constitutional concerns that this raises here that I have a hard time even thinking of this as a serious proposal.
Paul Heidel with the ACLU says it's unfeasible to put cameras on private citizens, that body cams should instead be used to bring transparency to the sheriff's office, a government agency.
At this point, it seems like the sheriff is grasping at straws and will say almost anything to create a distraction. I think the real issue here is why won't the sheriff accept responsibility for having accountability and transparency within his department?
Gonzalez points out he won his re-election campaign on a promise to fight crime, not to implement lapel cams.
And 126,000 plus people voted in great confidence in the landslide election to support my efforts to fight crime.
54% of county voters re-elected Sheriff Gonzalez in 2018. Yesterday, commissioners set aside $3.5 million over 4 years for body-worn cameras, but the final call is up to the man the people elected as sheriff. Now, in a statement, Gonzalez says in part, special interest groups try to distract New Mexicans from the crime crisis, and BCSO is aggressively and lawfully trying to combat that crime. Now, coming up tonight at 6, we talk to a civil rights lawyer that raises concerns about how BCSO is fighting crime and why he says implementing body-worn cameras could help clear up some of those concerns. That story tonight at 6. From downtown, I'm Ryan Laughlin, KOB4.